Michael Proctor went far beyond just insulting Karen Reed. He dehumanized this woman. He betrayed her as a human being.
Yes.
He was fired for this blatant bias.
Yes.
If the Massachusetts State Police can't trust him,
How can you?
how can you trust him? Not a single piece that the Commonwealth wants you to believe cut up John's arm. How is that possible? It's not possible. The only way it's possible is if those shards never touched his arm. Because it was a dog.
I love the whisper. Alan Jackson has very famously said about this case that the justice system will not be the same once this case is over. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Buckle Up. It's the Law with Attorney Larry Foreman. Folks, today we're going to continue with Alan Jackson's closing. Folks, it is one of the most magnificent closings, as I said yesterday, that I have ever seen in my entire life. Here we are, Saturday, June 14th. 2025. The jury already started deliberating yesterday, and they are well into their deliberations. They're going to resume deliberations on Monday, June 16th, and I cannot wait to see what their verdict is going to be, as I'm sure as is the rest of the world. Now, with all of this in mind, we're going to continue with Alan Jackson's closing. We're going to conclude it today. I still have the ARCA videos from when I was in court ready to be released. I think, unfortunately, we're going to skip Rentschler. I ran out of time for him because I was always like about a day and a half behind the entire trial. There were some days where I was much more behind than I am right now, but I finally caught up the other week, but now I'm behind again because it's impossible to release. You know, some days they have more than 2 witnesses, and when they do, then I'm completely dead in the water. I have to play catch up again, and we haven't had any real dark days since I went to Massachusetts. So none of it matters. I'm going to try and continue premiering as many videos as I can before this trial is over. I still have 3 Dr. Wolf videos that are going to be released Sunday and or Monday, and possibly bleeding into Tuesday. I have a top 10 video that is ready to be premiered. This is the top 10 of the Karen Reed jury trial, not just this past week. This is going to be a top 10 creme de la creme, the top 10 biggest moments of the trial. I have another Diddy video, Cassie Ventura for paid members. That is going to premiere hopefully this weekend. If not, it may be a hot minute before it premieres, but we shall see. Like I said, it's law and crimes, AI stuff. It's really good, but unfortunately, I'm also very limited in my abilities with respect to that case because there is no live footage since it's in New York in federal court. So without further ado, folks, let's get into Jackson's second half of the closing in the Karen Reed case on June 13th, 2025. Let's go. Oh, and before I forget, if you have not checked out our members-only content, go check it out. Membership started at 99 cents for an intern, and so you can check out all of the content that we have under the paywall, and most of it is going to be Diddy at this juncture.
Quote, is the homeowner going to catch any shit? Nope. He's a Boston cop too. End quote. That quote starts to make a little more sense now, doesn't it? Michael Proctor wrote those words just hours after John's body was found. He sent this in a private chat, in a private text he never, ever believed would ever be revealed.
Yep.
He sent that text in a series of messages that now belong to you. You weren't given the opportunity to hear from Michael Proctor, but you can read his thoughts for yourself. And I urge you, go read them. They're in Exhibit 209.
I love how he gives them where they are, because that's how powerful they are.
But here are the highlights. Proctor starts the conversation. Quote, all the powers that be want answers ASAP. He's getting pressure, obviously. Get this done. His friend then asks what Proctor's probably thinking at the time. Quote, I assume you guys are out to make it cut and dry since it involves cops. Something stinks. And Proctor responds, yeah, to the something stinks. And then he goes on, but there will be some serious charges brought on the girl. Think about that. Hours into this investigation, there will be some serious charges brought on the girl. She's a whack job cunt. Yeah, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass. No ass bitch. She's got a leaky balloon knot, leaks poo, 0 chance she skates. She's fucked. And up to this point, Michael Proctor had done 0 investigation, nothing, save talk to a grand total of 3 people, all of whom were named Albert or McCabe. That's it. And this was his mindset. This is the same lead investigator who sent the group chats that you heard about with Sergeant Butnick. Late night, sitting at his office, rifling through Karen's phone, bragging about looking for naked pictures of her. That text wasn't sent to his buddies or his friends. That text was sent to his supervisors at the Massachusetts State Police, for God's sake.
Insane.
And what was their response? Sergeant Buchanan liked this conduct with a big old thumbs up. He encouraged it. Ladies and gentlemen, a lead investigator is every investigator is supposed to be objective, an objective fact finder. No bias, no agenda. Michael Proctor went far beyond just insulting Karen Reed. He dehumanized this woman. He betrayed her as a human being.
Yes.
He was fired for this blatant bias.
Yes.
If the Massachusetts State Police can't trust him,
How can you?
how can you trust him with this investigation and with your verdict? And with Karen Reed's life. The lead investigator in a murder trial was never called to testify.
Yep.
Think about that. That should stop you in your tracks.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want to hear from Michael Proctor? Wouldn't you want to hear from the lead investigator in the case? Don't you have questions? The Commonwealth did not present their own lead investigator to the jury, the very jury who is charged with judging the investigation. Michael Proctor clearly is radioactive, and the Commonwealth stayed away from him.
Yep.
Michael Proctor is no longer a Massachusetts State Police officer. He wasn't transferred. He didn't go on sabbatical. He didn't retire. He didn't resign. He was fired. He was terminated for cause. The Massachusetts State Police investigated him, found him guilty of dishonorable conduct, not just for those text messages, folks, for sharing confidential information with witnesses, and for bias. Not just any bias. Bias in this case.
Yep.
Fired.
Yep.
This is the man who touched every single piece of important evidence in this case.
Oh, so
All
important.
the evidence that was brought before you in this trial went through his hands one way or another. The shirts, the shards. Remember that when Mr. Brennan gets up and gives his closing argument. The shirts, the shards, all in Michael Proctor's possession. Mr. Brennan and the Commonwealth, I think, have pinned their hopes on some microscopic pieces of, or close to microscopic pieces of plastic that were claimed to have been scraped from the hoodie several months after the fact. What he failed to ask every single every single witness, is who had access to that shirt and who had access to those taillight fragments, and the answer is it was Michael Proctor. Not for days, not for weeks, for months on end, for months unaccounted for, before they were submitted to the crime lab, before they were ever scraped. Just go look at the chain of custody documents. You've got them. Why didn't Michael Proctor give those clothes to Maureen Hartnett with the crime lab when she was at Canton PD just days after the fact to receive those Solo cups? Remember that? Just a few days later, she was there. She drove up. She did the driving to take the Solo cups in the grocery bag, which has a ridiculous aspect to it in and of itself as well. Why not just give her the shirts as well? Give her the taillight fragments if any were found at that point. Why hold on to them? What could possibly be a reason? Why wait until March to book those into evidence? Now let's talk about some of the other problems with the Commonwealth's evidence. As I indicated, there was no blood, no skin, no tissue, no DNA found on a single piece or shard of the taillight that the Commonwealth claims cut and sliced into John O'Keefe's arm. Where is that trace evidence? Where is that biological evidence?
Yep.
The DNA. Where is it? They've got nothing.
Doesn't exist.
Not a single piece that the Commonwealth wants you to believe cut up John's arm. How is that possible? It's not possible. The only way it's possible is if those shards never touched his arm. Because it was a dog.
I love the whisper. The whisper is like, it's so powerful. Sometimes you don't even have to raise your voice. It's just like, it was a dog. Is so much more powerful than saying, it was a dog. Like, it dilutes it. Let me let you in on a little secret. It was a dog. Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Example of DNA that they did find, by the way, was found on the outer, smooth part of the housing. Not any shard. It was the outer, smooth part of the housing. Nothing that they claim actually came in contact with John O'Keefe. Number two, that sample had DNA of two other men, two other unidentified males. That tells you that that DNA had nothing to do with a car strike. That DNA would be expected to be, John's DNA would be expected to be all over that car. Inside, outside, he had access to that car for months and months and months. He was in and out of it all the time. Show me some blood, then we'll talk. They can't, and they won't because it doesn't exist. That SUV never hit John. The hair found on the bumper. The Commonwealth really stretched its own credibility on this one. That magic little hair on the SUV supposedly survived a 37-mile drive in 47-mile-an-hour winds. But that little magic hair just clung there, just hung on. That same hair that moved in between photos in the Sallyport. Remember that? There were two photos taken, and it was either the breath of the photographer or just the movement of walking by the hair. It literally moved between the two photographs. But that hair is supposed to have hung on in a 37-mile drive in a blizzard? The only thing that hair proves that the Commonwealth is embarrassingly grasping at straws. That hair has nothing to do with anything.
Yep.
But it doesn't stop there. There was another revelation at trial, a big one, a huge one, and it came from a very unlikely source. Christina Hanley, the quiet, reserved criminalist who told you something the Commonwealth likely did not want revealed.
And every single one of these so far, folks, every single one is a Commonwealth witness, Commonwealth witness, Commonwealth witness, Commonwealth witness. Again, barely touching upon his own witnesses because he doesn't even need to. That's how strong the defense's case is in this case. It's unprecedented. I don't know if we're ever going to see a case like this again. Hopefully never, because Karen Reed has proved that this could happen to any of us. And Alan Jackson has very famously said about this case that the justice system will not be the same once this case is over. And I believe it. I wholeheartedly believe it. There's going to be like some sort of overhaul of something somewhere, at least in Massachusetts. I'm not saying like everywhere in the United States. Let's not get hasty here, folks. But the justice system is going to be changed forever because of the Karen Reed case. The way that they treated that woman, the way that they forced her to go through the ringer, to hire attorneys to spend $6 million defending a sham case, not once, but twice in 2024 and 2025. And hopefully by the time you watch this video, for those of you on the front end, when it premieres on Saturday, June 14, 2025, obviously we won't know yet, but hopefully by those of you watching in the future will know that Karen has been acquitted. I'm praying for that. I am praying.
Because it's devastating to their case. Absolutely devastating. And it's this. The glass on the bumper didn't match the cocktail glass. None of it. Remember, February 11th, Michael Proctor, without any other person with him, no witness, no supervisor, no other person with him, claims to have found a single piece of glass at the scene. February 11th, single piece of glass, Michael Proctor. Keep that in mind. Interestingly, the glass on the bumper that didn't match the cocktail glass, one piece did match one other thing. The Proctor glass. Those two go together. The only two things that go together from that bumper are the Proctor glass. We know that there's no glass in the taillight. We know that nothing else was shattered on the vehicle. Therefore, that glass had to be placed there.
Yep.
Didn't come from a crash. Didn't come from a cocktail glass. So how did it get sprinkled on the back of the bumper?
Proctor put it there.
Whose proverbial fingerprints are on that glass on the bumper? The only thing it matched was Michael Proctor. What about the Ford Edge and that snowplow driver, Brian Lofgren? He observed that Ford Edge parked outside Brian Albert's house at 3:30 a.m. That vehicle was moved directly in front of where John's body was found sometime between 2:30 and 3:30 in the morning. The only person connected to a car of that make and model, Brian Albert. Michael Proctor did nothing to investigate that point. Did nothing to investigate whose Ford Edge was parked in a spot specifically to block the line of sight in the exact position where John's body would be later found by Karen Reed.
Yep.
No one, not Michael Proctor or anybody else, checked it for evidence. No one even asked any questions about it. That Ford Edge, Brian Albert's Ford Edge, completely ignored. Michael Proctor failed to interview obvious witnesses in this case. Why? Why didn't he want to speak to the snowplow driver, Brian Lofgren? Why did he falsely claim that no one plowed the roadway that morning? When police dash cam video, you saw the dash cam, it shows plows going back and forth all morning. Why did he wait so long, years even, to interview Heather Maxson and Ryan Nagel, individuals who were literally outside 34 Fairview at the exact same time John and Karen arrived at Brian Albert's house that night? Brian Lofgren, had he been investigated or interviewed, would have told Michael Proctor that he drove past the lawn multiple times on January 29th, and there was no body on the lawn. He would have had a perfect view. Remember, the weatherman told you there was only enough snow at that time. I think he said, in a very charming phrase, only enough snow to track a cat. I think that was it. There was no body there. Heather Maxson and Ryan Nagel would have told him that they arrived at 34 Fairview shortly after Karen and John pulled up behind them, and they would have told Michael Proctor, at least Heather would have told Michael Proctor, that when she left 10 minutes later, she drove past the SUV and observed Karen Reed in the driver's side, dome light on, passenger seat empty. So where was John? He wasn't outside, wasn't sitting down, wasn't laying down. There's only one place he could be. We could all say it together if you could talk with me.
He was inside the house.
He was in the house. But Michael Proctor did not want to have those answers. He did not want to have to disclose those answers. He didn't want the truth. The Commonwealth hasn't presented a shred of evidence of when Karen Reed consumed her last drink that night. Think about that. It's critical information.
Very
that
important.
The Commonwealth has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. They have to prove when her last drink was that night. They have to prove it. We don't have to prove or disprove anything. Every single witness who was asked and who had an opportunity to observe Karen that night said the same thing. She wasn't drunk. She wasn't stumbling. She wasn't slurring her words. She was, in the words of Ms. Kolakithis, completely normal. Even Jennifer McCabe, grudgingly, had to admit that fact. It's on video. Instead, they used Yuri Buchanan to try to come into court and count sips of alcohol, which he admittedly got wrong. According to Ian Whiffen, the Commonwealth's own expert, the location data, using location data on John's phone, showed Karen driving lawfully. She was driving safely. She was under the speed limit. She was slowing and stopping at stop signs, slowing around corners. And Ryan Nagel corroborated that when he saw her make that left-hand turn onto Fairview. The Commonwealth has an incredibly high burden to prove that Karen was driving under the influence. They have failed to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty, because it depends on when she had her last drink.
Correct.
What happened after she got home and she was upset with John for not coming back out of the house? That would answer that question.
Yep.
As you well know, no one searched the house for signs of a struggle. Not that night, not the next day. I'm talking about 34 Fairview. Not ever. Not once. Not with a warrant, not with consent. They never went into the basement, the stairwells. They didn't look at the walls. They didn't look in the garage. Nothing was ever examined. Nothing was checked for blood. Nothing was checked for DNA. They didn't look for a ledged or ridged surface.
Folks, I hate to stop it right here. This is where it gets really good, and you're going to have to tune in tonight at 7, I'm so sorry, p.m. Eastern. For those of you in the future, it's already premiered. Go check it out. This is going to be the finale. This is part 4, and this is where it gets really, really fun. You do not want to miss this one. Don't forget to like this video, comment, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, everybody.